Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 128. Looking for the moments, being intentional, and being in the moment during the holidays. So if you've been hanging out with us all month, you know it's been all about how to take care of yourself around the holidays. We've talked about how to set limits with family, how you go back different if you've been working on yourself, especially this past year or so. Essentially, how to take care of yourself. So we want to wrap up the month and talk today about being really intentional. Now, we've talked about being intentional in the past, and remember, intentions are not about controlling outcomes. They're not resolutions. They're not you saying what's going to happen, because we don't know. Intentions are more heartfelt and broad, or perhaps more vague. Like instead of saying, I'm going to lose 5 pounds, I'm going to say, I intend to eat healthier this month. I like intentions because they're about us and not about outcomes. They're not about people around us. They're not about controlling situations. Because what we want to focus on this month is being more grounded and being more focused and calmer and more peaceful. Being in the moment, as you know, if you've been listening to the show for a while, can take courage, can create anxiety, can feel overwhelming, or can feel wonderful, and can be all the above in about 5 minutes, depending on who we are and where we are in the process. Remember, being in the moment growing up may not have been wonderful for all of you. Maybe that's when you were yelled at or shamed or hurt or ignored or bullied at school or teased. Anything that made the moment feel uncomfortable. The other reason why we run from the moment is we're running from ourselves. Because if we sat still long enough, what might we have to look at? So just a brief review around why it may be hard for you to be in the moment, why it's hard to sit still, why you feel more comfortable focusing outside of yourself and doing and making things happen. Don't be hard on yourself if you're not great at being in the moment yet, because you can work on this and you can get better and better at it. And remember, if you're not great at it, it's not your fault, at least not the origins of that. Okay, so I think in order for us to take care of ourselves around the holidays, we can't do anything if we're not grounded first. Even when you listen to a guided meditation, like I was doing some of Shakti Gawain's meditations the other day, and she always starts out with being grounded, getting focused. Because you can't, you have to get back within yourself in order to take care of yourself with others. So practice being grounded first. Think about your plan for self-care, self-care, self-care. That means taking care of what needs to be taken care of. But also it means setting limits, especially around the holidays, on how much you do, how much running around you're doing. And there are those of you out there that may need to say no to rescuing others from their own lack of self-care or their own lack of organization. Look at where you might be overstepping and fixing. We can't hold our own or hold the line with others or ourselves if we're tired, if we're depleted, right? You just can't. You're not going to do it as well or as confidently as if you would if you were well rested and calmer and clearer. Can't do it if we're scattered, if we're worn out. If we're in any way disconnected from how we really feel about a situation, like what's really going on, and or what our bodies need at the moment. Maybe we've been running it too hard and not taking care of ourselves. So unmet needs, unmet physical needs in terms of rest, in terms of a break, in terms of nutrition, in terms of healthy exercise, psychological and mental needs, like maybe a break from people, a break from the stress, the loudness, the busyness, whatever it is. Maybe if we're struggling with something medically or physically or emotionally, are we pushing ourselves beyond what we can give right now? So any unmet needs are going to make it really hard for us to feel grounded. So meet your needs first. Get really basic. How does my body feel? How does my head feel? How does my heart feel? What do I need right now the most? Don't worry if answers don't come immediately. They'll come. They'll come quietly, but they'll come. You'll be guided. Like maybe you're feeling really alone. You're going to have the urge to pick up the phone. Maybe just text someone. They'll cross your mind, things like that. So making sure we're grounded first, the best we can. There's no perfect. It's a busy time of year. I get that. But let's do what we can, because even taking 10 minutes for yourself to meditate, to deep breathe, to close your eyes for a moment, to go for a walk, to goof off, maybe to clean up, is going to help you feel better. So what do you need? It's not pretty when we have unmet needs. We've been talking about that for a while on this show in many different ways. The second thing we want to do is we want to get intentional. Remember, what you believe in and believe about yourself will direct your behavior, whether you're aware of it or not. It's the same for all of us. Values and beliefs are driving the bus all the time. So when we get intentional, we're not behaving unconsciously. Unconscious to what is the driver is what I mean by unconsciously. Not habitually. Habits are things we do that we don't even think about anymore. So getting intentional is the opposite. It's stopping for a moment. Where is my focus? Now, self-care is a big part of this. Meditation, making quiet time, your physical self-care, bringing the focus back to self when you start to worry, when you start to think about everyone else and everything that could happen. Getting intentional. What do you want your holidays to look like? How do you want to be? How do you want to spend the next 30 days? And why? Get your why behind. You hear me say that all the time for a reason. Our why is our own and is the best way to get back in touch with who we really are. It gives us passion and it gives us purpose. And it gives us meaning. Get intentional about your behavior. Wow, we could talk about just this section all day. Like, how do you want to interact with people? Gosh, how do you even want to interact with yourself? Remember, your self-talk, I'm going to include in your behavior. And I want you to practice being really kind to yourself. Not making excuses for yourself, not condoning bad behavior. I'm not talking about that. Give yourself truth, but give yourself grace along with said truth. Let's get specific. So maybe you want to have better eye contact at family gatherings. Maybe you've been a little avoidant for good reason in the past. Maybe you've been distracted and not really emotionally available, and you want to work on that, which is wonderful. Maybe that means stopping what you're doing, turning and looking at them, really trying to listen with your heart, like what's really going on for them, what are they really trying to say? Maybe even working on reflecting back, like, wow, that sounds really exciting for you, or, oh gosh, that's got to be really hard, or you must be so frustrated, or relieved, or overwhelmed, or overjoyed. So really, working on that loving detachment and reflecting about them for a moment has a million different benefits. One, they're going to feel what we all want to feel, which is that we matter, and what's going on for us matters, and it's valid, and we're not crazy, and it means something to someone else. Our joys, our achievements, our struggles. We want that to mean something to ourselves first, of course. but it's really powerful that it means something to those close to us. Maybe you want to focus on not being as stressed this holiday season. That's me. Or anxious or negative. A lot of people have had hellacious holiday interactions in the past. Or tragic things happening. Or maybe dad ruined Christmas every year by drinking. Or mom blew things up. Or. Fill in the blank for yourself. Maybe people just couldn't act right. So, think about that, where you are. Grief is very healthy. But also, are you not allowing yourself to have a different experience now, today? You have more control over that than you think. And that's what we mean today about being intentional. Maybe you're working on showing more interest in others. Self-absorbed doesn't mean we're just selfish people. It just means we're just tied up in what's going on for ourselves, which maybe for good reason. Maybe you've had a lot of shit going on this year. But we can get intentional about putting that aside for a moment and showing more interest in what's going on for others as well. Not minimizing what's going on for us, but just also showing more interest in others, just to learn, just to be curious, just to connect. Maybe you want to become more intentional about offering to help more. Or if you're one of those, maybe offering to help less, okay? Detaching and not controlling the outcome by doing too much, saying yes to things you have no business doing. Like, for instance, if you say, sure, Mom, I'll come out a day early for the holiday, but you can't because you've got a work deadline or your own shopping to do or whatever. That's what I mean by you have no business trying to help someone else when your stuff is not together enough. Enough, right? Together enough where you're not just going to be really sabotaging yourself or harming your own well-being. Maybe you want to focus on how you want to be as a person. Like maybe less frantic. Maybe a little more organized this holiday season. Maybe you want to spend less. Maybe you want to risk more vulnerably with others. However you want to be. I want you to think of some adjectives right now that could describe how you want to be, ideally. So getting really clear with that. And don't push it away immediately and say, oh, that won't happen. I can't be calm during the holidays. There's too much going on. Just say, I'd love to be calm. Okay, another thing you might want to be intentional about are your boundaries. We've been talking about those this month. Where are you in that process? Can you set them and maintain them well, perhaps? Good for you. Are you in the learning stage where you're in the typical awkward way we all start out with when we set limits? It's not pretty, but it's good that we're setting them. Or are you just discovering your life needs some, and this is brand new? Wherever you are on that continuum, where are your boundaries? And maybe you were doing really well for a while and you fell off the horse. Okay. So the external boundaries, what to say no to and why that is okay. I want you to think about, what do I know I might need to say no to in the next few weeks and why? Get your why together. Boundary work is also what to ask for, to speak up, to be more assertive, ask for help, delegate some things. Ask for things to be different this year. Whatever your ask is okay. Maybe you're doing more psychological boundary work where you're trying not to focus on others and the outcomes and other people's circumstances and what they might do and not do. So hard not to do that. Remember, your brain is always scanning for danger, which can make us go there and ruminate because our brain is trying to protect ourselves from danger. And if you don't have a whole hell of a lot of trust in other people or how things are going to turn out, Of course, it would make sense. Your brain would go there. Just keep bringing it back and saying, I have no control over that. I can only control me. I can't control outcomes. No one can. But I can control how I want to show up and what I'd like to try to do. And speaking of, your internal boundaries, aka your self-discipline. This is where we can all struggle during the holidays. Self-discipline around money, maybe. Really being intentional about how you want to spend, what you want to spend, what you don't want to spend, and why. And really look at and sit with, is there any guilt driving anything? Is there any fear like, oh my gosh, I have to spend enough on that person? And think about what you want to do with that. Like, are we trying to look wonderful? I mean, we have to really get clear with ourselves about what's going on there. Boundaries around your time and your energy. Yes, you can put that on your plate, but should you? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And why are you putting it on your plate? What's driving it? Because remember, we have to do the benefits, but then at what cost, right? Like, I can do that. But what does that entail? Because that stuff does not happen in a vacuum. And the people that struggle with overwhelm the most, I think, are ones that are not sitting in reality. Like, there's some great things to doing that, but how is that going to work? What else is it going to affect, right? What's going to get squeezed? What will be impacted? How will others be impacted? How is that in alignment with everything else I intended? Right? So just sitting with that, your time and your energy. And when we're intentional, we have to kind of be prepared and plan a little bit about, okay, well, if I do that this weekend, is that in alignment with how I want to spend this holiday season? Does that work? Yes or no? And then you have to own it. And finally, your self-discipline about sticking to the plan that you came up with. And if you don't have one yet, I encourage you to put one together, even just loosely, and writing it down just brings a little bit more commitment to the process. Decide what is allowed to change said plan also, and what isn't. This is really important. Okay, what's going to get in the way? How much are you willing to hold sacred? And if we're not intentional about what could get in the way, I mean, not that we can think of everything that can happen, but we have to be very clear. Like, is it a big life event that's no one's fault? Or this is important. Is it because they dropped the ball, they waited to the last minute, they're disorganized, they don't have boundaries? I want you to stop and get real careful. Because remember, detachment, just because they doesn't mean you necessarily have to change your plan. So really disengaging from other people's choices and focusing on what we want to choose and why. So discipline. Maybe it's around your eating. Maybe it's around how much you're willing to wear yourself out, how much you're willing to travel, things like that. And finally, make that intention list. First, start out broadly. How do you want to feel? What do you want to focus on and why? And how do you want to be for the most part? Not perfectly, just something to strive for and aspire to, not control. There's a difference. Maybe you want to be healthier, maybe kinder, maybe a little less frenetic. Maybe you want to focus on time with loved ones. So you pare down some things that you try to pile on activity-wise so that you can enjoy some of it. One of the examples for me is I try to be kinder this time of year when I'm out and about. I try to give people a little bit more grace. Like maybe let them in line, not be frustrated at what they're doing or not doing. Maybe giving a smile or hello or being helpful in some way. Now, what's interesting is I know that I can do this much easier and quicker when I'm less frazzled. Hence, back to self-care. The more grounded I feel, the more I can show up for other people in a much better way. So make your list. So how do you want to feel? Where do you want to focus? How do you want to be? And then get specific, like, okay, well, what does that look like and what does that mean? Think about what you will be doing this holiday season and how is that in alignment? And what do you want to do around that? And we're going to get to this in just a second, but what that boils down to, and you know this, where the rubber hits the road is in the moment. I mean, we can talk all day about how we intend to be, but if we blow off the moments, which are the opportunities to make it happen, which makes it real, it makes it scary, and a lot of them can come up on us so quickly. I get that. It's okay. Just try to be ready for the next one. You know, you're up at bat. You're not going to hit every ball that comes your way, especially not the curved balls. But you can focus on the ball and try to hit the next one. So looking for the moments in a whole host of different ways. I'm just giving you examples today. I want you to figure out what's resonating for you as you listen to this and why, and come up with your own. But maybe we're looking for the moments of when they need you. Maybe they need a hug, an appreciation, some reassurance, some help. Being in tune perhaps for a moment to what others need, not too much. Don't ever do it to where you're going to do it to your own detriment. But just when you can, when it feels right. Follow your intuition, guys, on this. It will always guide you. Look for the moments of synchronicity, of a moment of joy and laughter, goofing off with someone, cracking up when something funny happens, or calm or relaxation with someone, enjoying a good meal. Sitting with children is always wonderful. Or conversely, maybe sadness, if that's what's happening. And sharing that with someone who can get that, is maybe sad for you or with you. That's okay too. Those are also some hard moments to sit in, but so profound and so crucial for our healing. We can't heal what isn't real. It isn't real until you feel it. Look for the moments of boundary opportunities. We talked about boundary work earlier. Okay, they happen in the moment. Hello. The moment to say no, thank you. The moment to say thank you, yes, I do need help. In terms of getting real with your hands are full, right? That's accepting reality too. To breathe in the moment. Maybe to notice. To see the snowflakes. To hug. To let yourself be loved. Moments to feel. To ponder. To relax. To get excited. To join. To connect. To feel belongingness with someone or a group of people. And just to enjoy. Moments to be vulnerable. To love. To be more vulnerable with really safe people. Maybe moments to be more patient, to practice being patient. Moments of compassion. Maybe someone needs to hear that there is hope, that you understand, that you've been there. Harder. What about forgiveness? Remember, forgiveness sets you free. It comes at the end of the grief process, but we might still be holding on to have a little bit of power. What if we let go? And let go of the power they've been holding over us. And finally, moments to grieve when it comes up and it's sitting in your throat and it needs to come out. Those are moments too. They come and they go. Another thing we can do in the moment is notice the feelings and do your best if you struggle with this, try to identify each one. Sit there with the contradictory ones. Say, well, this makes no sense. How can I be happy for them and mad at them at the same time? Because you can, because life is complicated. And maybe ones that fit together in a situation and it makes sense. Remember, the more you say that what you feel makes sense, the more that you're going to feel like you make sense. And that's really important. In the moment, maybe you want to notice the meaning. What is profound? What is the purpose? What are you showing up for right now? And why? So finally, in order to make this work, it's really helpful ahead of time to rehearse. Keep it at the front. Keep reminding yourself in whatever way is necessary. Remember, ask the subconscious to help you out here. It doesn't know it can't happen. It doesn't know it hasn't happened yet and that you can't do it well. Okay? So use that to your advantage. I think it's really helpful to run some what-if scenarios, not to make yourself anxious, just to get grounded and keep the focus on you. For example, like, what if they call me and ask me to fill in the blank? What am I willing to do, not willing to do, and why? See how the focus is coming right back to you. What will I say or do when confronted at the family home or on the phone? What will I do to take care of myself in fill in the blank situation? Will I detach? Should I walk away? Of course, don't walk away without saying, I'm going to walk away, because it's passive aggressive. If you say nothing, it's acting out. Will you make a different decision, perhaps? Take care of yourself? What will you do to just detach? Because there's really not much you can do. Maybe you're going to go for a walk, take a nap, journal, call a friend, go over your list of intentions again. The core is getting back to you. What you're going to do with, how you're going to take care of yourself. You don't have to know exactly unless the situation calls for it. Some do, some don't. And because we never know what specifically can really happen, we want to keep it a little open anyway. That's why boundaries are really important, because you want to figure out, what am I so not willing to do? Like, I'm not going to let people get drunk and scream at me, you say. Or I'm not going to let myself be treated in a certain way. So I'm going to figure it out. That intention will guide your behavior. It'll guide your choices of what to do. So remember last week, we talked about how you're becoming better at humility and personal responsibility and detachment and boundaries. Keep working on those things, especially at this time of year, because that's when they can really come into play. And be really compassionate with yourself if you fall. If you cave, if you give it, it's okay. We're going to do it until we're done doing it. That's all it is. It's part of the process. No one gets to skip over the process. It's part of what cements the meaning for us. It gives us resolve to do better next time. So in essence, all month we've been talking about being focused on who you want to be and what you want to intend for this holiday season. It's been about being prepared and getting back to you, because it means getting back to yourself. It means taking your power back from maybe years of being compliant, maybe years of being enmeshed with family or your partner or other people, and losing who you are over time. That can include people-pleasing and avoidance and the fear of setting boundaries. This month, I want you just to refocus on yourself. At least get grounded. That will help you know what your next steps will be and what you are willing and capable to do right now. Refocusing on yourself, I know, can feel scary. It can feel invigorating, or both. Or, depending on where you are, maybe really peaceful. And you're like, oh, it's time. So as you go into December, take a risk. Take a stand if necessary. And be true to yourself this holiday season while focusing on your intentions. Remember, the more you honor yourself, the better life gets. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope it was helpful. May you be peaceful and healthy and grounded. Always hold on to hope. Check the show notes at ownitpowercast.com for any bonus downloads. And share the podcast. Share it with people that you know might benefit from it. All right, so pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you could begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.